Well, I have Wade MacNeil here with me on the green room today. Wade, I'm beyond excited to chat to you today. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast with me.
My pleasure.
Now, I know you're a man of many, many talents, and obviously you are having a lot of things going on right now. You're a very busy man, and a lot of people would be accustomed to your incredible previous work in a lot of bands, but your work has also graced film and video soundtracks. And funnily enough, by total coincidence, my boyfriend actually recently made me watch the movie Goon, and I actually was obsessed with the movie. And then I was even more excited to find out that you actually had a hand on that soundtrack. So it was a beautiful little everything coming into one fruition moment for me when I found out I was going to interview you. But I'll come back to that stuff in a little bit to risk making you sound like an overachiever. You are also on the brink of releasing the self titled debut album for Doom's Children. Given the year and a bit that has come before all of this, how does it feel to yet again be on the brink of releasing a new album?
Well, it's been really exciting. I mean, as difficult as the last couple of years have been now uh, for everyone, but especially for how it's turned the music industry kind of upside down. Um, in the kind of most positive aspects of it have been I've recorded a lot of records. It was a time that being away from the road, I was able to, I don't know, have a really, really creative period of writing a ton of music with a lot of different people. And the kind of one piece of normalcy that uh, we were all kind of able to have was going into the studio. And so the world is starting to slowly open up back again. And I'm, going to start putting some records out and playing some shows, and it's really really exciting to be able to share all these songs with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know the project leans into some more kind of psych rock waters, but what I found really interesting about it was it offers some pretty significant glimpses into a very raw and vulnerable Wade MacNeil. Can you talk me through how Doom's Children kind of came to be as a project? I know the album was partially written during a pretty unique time in your life, for lack of a better way to put it. Like, how did this kind of all come to be?
I think music, at the risk of sounding cliche, I think music can really save people's lives, and I think it's saved mine a variety of times. And writing these songs and putting this together um, was, I think, a way for me to work through a lot of a very, very difficult spot in my life. And then also to continue to work on the record as I kind of came out of the darker parts of that. And as I was kind of rebuilding things. And when I was in a more sober and uh, mentally healthy space, is kind of where I finished the record. And where I started the record was being very, very depressed and kind of not even, I don't know, I feel like the parties had stopped a long time ago, but it had been more of a like just a necessity of like getting through the day. And so like I felt like things were kind of falling apart around me. And I think there's some songs addressing that on the album. And then there's some songs like After I Got Clean and kind of started finding some more hope again, I think, that are the kind of latter part of the album. And so for me personally, it's a very emotional thing to listen to, and I think it's going to be a very emotional thing to play. But I don't know, I just wanted to be very open with it, and especially lyrically I tried to be very direct as well, and not kind of hide things metaphorically or uh, in a more poetic sense. I just kind of like brutally honestly came out with them, and I'm very I'm very glad I did. I think it was a very good experience for me, um, and I hope it's that like very direct honesty that people can hopefully relate to it and take away from it.
It is interesting you say that, because I mean, not to say that your suffering and your experiences should be a catalyst for inspiration, but to see you bearing your soul the way you do in art, and there's still, you know, occasional tongue-in-cheek moments amongst the really heavy-hitting emotions. Like I walked away feeling really uplifted rather than demoralized. And it's interesting you say that the album kind of does flow in that state of how your journey went. So yeah, I definitely walked away just, yeah, again, not feeling inspired by what you had gone through necessarily, but it just does have that amazing stirring sense of hope amongst all the dark. So I think it's an incredible thing that you've achieved. And I feel like we are so lucky to be able to have this insight into what you've gone through, and it's culminated in something pretty damn special, that's for sure.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Well, very true.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I don't know if good music or good art like requires suffering. Um, but I think I'm lucky that I had a place to put that and was able to do something with it and channel it into something else.
Definitely. And I mean, I know it does dive into some pretty emotional terrain for you, but there's also some like new musical terrain here too. Like in terms of what you were looking into, like from an influence perspective or from, you know, a stylistic perspective, were you gunning for anyone in particular? Like I've read names like Grateful Dead and Queens of the Stone Age bandied about in terms of comparisons. What were some of your resonating stylistic influences that impacted Doom's children?
Well, you know, I've always loved like Neil Young records and Credence and the Allman Brothers and stuff like that. And but I don't think I ever had any interest in trying to make a record like that. But it's certainly more where my musical interests are like lying these days. Um, and it's always exciting to do something new. And and I think that kind of ties in with emotionally and mentally where I was at. I was not really listening to a lot of aggressive music. I think life felt really chaotic at the time I began writing this, and I was listening to uh, a lot of softer music, you know, like therapeutically, and it was helping. You know, listening to the Dead a lot was uh, was helping, and so I think the concept of making something like that that had a bit of a kinder sound and energy uh, became something I wanted to try and chase down, and was certainly a process. But I'm really happy with where we arrived at, and I think we managed to capture some of those elements of the bands that I just mentioned, and that yeah, even though subject matter wise things can be very mournful or somber, uh, musically it can be very uplifting. And I've certainly never done anything like that musically before, and it was yeah, it was really fun to make.
Mm. Well, on that note of making the album, like it's such an immersive listen, and I feel like that was pretty much amplified by how you recorded and produced it too. Like I almost got the sense that you were sitting there in the room next to me with some of the tracks. It's like you're playing there live in the room. And I know you had some awesome additions with people coming on instrumentals for it too. How was it working with like people like Daniel and Ian and Patrick on what would become the first ever Doom's Children album?
Well, it was. It's cool to hear you say it sounds like, you know, people in another room, because it was very much recorded like that. Like we set up in Dan's living room, and you know, I showed them the songs on like an acoustic guitar, and then we'd run the song a few times, and you know, press record on maybe the second run through, and maybe it would be the third run through of the song or the fourth run through of the song. But it was all recorded like that. It's all live. Um, the additional stuff, you know, where we did some solos, they were all done just like in one take. Um, you know, one of us would decide where to do the solo, and then we would do it, and that would be that. And even vocally, I didn't really revise much. I sang it a couple times, and you know, that's the way my voice sounds. And even if that means a few things were flat here or there, or, I kind of like ran out of breath, I just kind of, I left it be. And so it very much sounds like that's the way the band sounds when we play. And I think in like allowing those rough edges to be there, it it sounded a lot more like the records from the 60s and 70s that I wanted it to sound like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, it's like all of that feeding into what you maybe inadvertently had planned all along, it seems. But I guess too, as someone who has tried his hand at so many creative projects over the years and quite frequently more in a band setting with multiple members, do you enjoy, I know you worked with other people with this obviously, but do you enjoy the more solo aspect that Doom's Children has offered in terms of actually writing and conjuring these tracks? I mean, there's obviously pros and cons to both sides of things, and obviously you always have a team to bring it to life, but do you find yourself lacking this more solo stuff at this stage in your career, or do you still love band life equally?
No, I think the most interesting thing about music and or just being collaborative with people or creative is finding like-minded people and creating something together. Uh, I've done some like acoustic tours, like I did some a few years ago, and I just really didn't like it. Um, I like sharing in it with other people, and certainly, these are very personal songs to me, and I guess it could be viewed as a solo project, but I picked the people that played on this record with me for a reason, and their contributions are are a large part of the way it sounded. And so and I think that's probably why I called it Doom's Children too. Like I didn't want to put out the aside from me putting a fucking record out called Wade MacNeil. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to put that on a long sleeve T-shirt and try and sell it to people. And it sounds like this sounds like a blues trio record or something. I don't know. So,
I'd still
so I
buy
don't
it.
know. Yeah, I guess I really like the thing I love the most about uh, making anything is making it with other people, and this is a good opportunity to make it with people like outside the sphere of what I usually work on, and being able to work with Dan and Ian and Pat, who have all made such varied records, was a real pleasure.
Yeah, and it's obviously you've dabbled outside of these more, the heavier genres, so to speak, and the stuff that you're probably more typically associated with. And I think interestingly too, like as I touched on at the start, obviously it's not just the musical dominant band and solo stuff that you're doing. Like you've worked in film, you've worked with game soundtracks, and I guess in that respect, like with the nature of world building and conjuring and establishing a fictional world, it's obviously a very different way to create music. Did you enjoy the unique process with, say, like what you did for Far Cry 5? Like you're obviously doing the arcade portion of that game. Is that, again, giving you a different collaborative aspect to your creativity?
Yeah, I mean speaking to the musical director for the game and the creative director and yeah, conceptualizing all that stuff um and then also trying to learn to write in a completely different way. You're not writing songs or you're not writing albums. You're writing uh this massive amount of music that exists in like 3.5 minute loops by and large that is so dense with instrumentation in the way that the game cycles through the levels and pulls certain elements of your score out. And um, that was a really cool experience working on those video games. And I'm sure like I learned a lot about songwriting from pushing it in a different direction. And I know like yeah, I used some of that when I probably worked on some films and used some of the things I learned on the films on the records I made. And um yeah, I don't know, I think like it all in, informs the next project I work on. And it's nice that I feel good that I'm able to work on so many varied things. And yeah, it's just an opportunity to try new things to learn new things. And I think at the end of the day, it's like the next project I work on benefits from it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting seeing, like, I am a horror wuss, so please don't judge me. I haven't seen Random Acts of Violence because I'm like secretly 10 years old and scared of everything. But I read on IMDb that it was your first ever acting role. Is this correct? Are you officially got this extra string to your bow?
Yeah, I'm an actor now. What a nightmare. Um,
Please,
I mean,
please
like
go on.
the director was happy. I mean, they put me in the trailer for the film, so I must have done okay. But I've never been more stressed out about anything I've ever done.
Please tell me for someone. I mean, I feel like I have to watch it now, but what was the role? Please tell me.
I played a radio host that was interviewing the creator of this graphic novel the graphic novel is based around this string of killings in upstate New York. So I was having the creator of the novel on my radio show, under the guise that I was like a fan of his, but I get him on the air and I just like absolutely eviscerate him because I had a personal relationship. My character had a personal relationship with someone that was murdered. And so, you know, like, I don't know, I say what he does is like torture porn and he should be ashamed of himself and like just roast him. And yeah, it was like a very long scene too. I mean, I was probably talking, it was probably about 9 minutes of dialogue between me and Jesse Williams, which is also the other thing too. I'm just like rolling into a movie with Jordana Brewster and Jesse Williams, and I'm supposed to yell at Jesse Williams.
Just
And
casually, just a casual
yeah,
day
just
today.
casual morning where I'm yelling at Jesse Williams. And yeah, I mean, as I said, I think it all turned out okay, but oh fuck,
Yeah,
I
if
was
you make it in the
stressed.
trailer, I feel like, I mean, I don't want to use the word overachiever lightly, but I feel like, after Doom's Children, we may be seeing a little bit more of you on the silver screen too, by the looks of it. God damn.
Well, I don't know. I continue to work with Jay Baruchel, and who knows? I mean, he convinced me to act in the last one, so we'll see what happens in the future.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'll watch this with great interest. And I guess, like, on the topic of everything you've done, there is so much variation in all your projects. I mean, you've gone from the punked up realms of Gallows, the blistering world of Alexisonfire, and obviously you've had your stamp on works like Cancer Bat, Anti-Flag, obviously Doom's Children's the latest one, to name but a mere few. Is there anything creatively on your bucket list you would absolutely love to tick off at this point in time? I mean, considering you've done the acting thing too, maybe we need a Wade MacNeil musical or something. I don't know. But is there anything
I feel like
really
musical is
special?
like you get to musical when you're in your 60s.
Yeah. So
So
we'll put that on pause. We'll hold off.
we're gonna yeah we're gonna pump the brakes on the musical. Uh, I think I'd love to direct a music video. Um, and yeah, I think that would be the next thing that I think is a reasonable thing for me to do that I would enjoy doing. Um, and it'd be nice to try and write something. It'd be nice to try and write a book at some point.
Yeah. I feel like that feels like the natural progression. I like this a lot. And I feel like, could even have a little bit of a dovetail in it. Who knows, something you write may turn into a music video. So this could be a way we can lead everything into each other. But no musicals yet, I promise.
Yeah, it's music video first, book after that, and then probably a few more things, then musical.
Yeah, love it. Well, this is a good career trajectory. Now, I know you've been extremely busy, so I won't keep you much longer. But obviously, as things are starting to open up and you can look to do more touring, and God, we would love to have you here in Australia. Hopefully, it will be something we can have happen sooner rather than later. But considering I've dragged you onto the Green Room podcast today, a very important, hard hitting question: what is one essential item that you like to have on your Green Room rider when you're on the road?
What is the only thing that I will actually be angry about if this is not there, and it more specifically if someone takes it? Uh, Integral to my touring and playing shows is the show's over. I want a blue Gatorade.
Oh, yes.
And blue is also an important part of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm on team blue.
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose that's about it. The rest of it, I could be sleeping on the floor. It's fine. Just
but don't touch the blue Gatorade. I'm with you there. That's a very important one, and I concur with that one. That's awesome. Well, Wade, I'm so grateful to grab some time with you today, and your incredible music, Doom's Children, is just going to be getting so many multiple spins from me once again, and then obviously very far beyond me into the rest of the world. I feel like it's an album I'm going to have to blast on a road trip sometime soon as well, but for the time being, congratulations on an incredible journey to an incredible release, and thank you for sharing your stories with us.
Yeah, pleasure talking with you, and hopefully I find myself in Australia sooner than later.
Yes, I will be ready, willing, and able. The second we can, we'll swim you over if we have to.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome, Wade. Thank you so much for your time. I hope your night's not too hectic.
It's all good. Great talking to you.
You too. Have a good rest of your day.
Okay, bye.
The Green Room with Tiana Speter is a podcast from the Handshake Agency Network, produced by Tiana Speter and Andrew Mast, with Pharrell D'Souza and Henry Gibson providing research. Recorded and engineered by Zake Parker, executive producer Craig Treweek.